Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shatterproof Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Scott Reed, and today we have an extraordinary guest joining us, my friend, Heather Nichols. Heather is not just an entrepreneur, but also a connector, a difference maker, super masterminder, and she's the founder and CEO of Big Harvest Marketing. Today we're going to talk about everything from marketing to how to be content with where you are in life and what Jesus means to us in our businesses. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Scott. I'm really honored to be here and excited to share in this conversation and impact anybody that does listen. Hope you find some great takeaways from this. And we're going to take away and glean in fellowship while we talk business too.
Yeah. Yeah, I love having this show because I basically I just bring my friends on and we have conversations that we've had a lot of times, but now everyone else gets to share in some of the value that I've taken from all the conversations over the years I've had with you. And we've known each other almost 10 years. I met you at Michelle Prince's Book Bound in the summer of 2015. I even tell you what date it was. It was June 15th because it was my anniversary, and my
Ah,
wife was
ah,
there with us. We stayed at the hotel. So that's how I remember. But I
nice.
met a lot. It was a huge day. I'm sure for you guys because you got to go through the book bound process. But I made a
Oh,
lot of friends that day, and that wasn't
yeah.
why I was there. I was there to support Michelle. But out of that meeting, I made a lot of friends that I think are here we are almost 10 years later, and I'm still having regular conversations with people that I met in that room,
Yeah.
which brings me to a topic that I think is really has proven to be true in my life. And I want to see if it has in yours. Being in the right room.
Ooh, good topic.
Mhm. Yeah. So, can you tell me about an experience or a time where you felt like you were in the right room at the right time, and what I like to call God appointments? Like it's like
Mm.
that was one of them for me for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Tim, my husband and I, we refer to those similarly, divine appointments.
Mhm.
And the more that we tune into those, we find the more of them happening, which also makes me think, well, had those been happening all along and I just wasn't looking at them with that lens?
Maybe.
So part of the spiritual growth as we go along in our timeline, right? But yeah, so to your question, what are some other right rooms that I've found myself realizing I'm in the right room, right place? It is divine. Yeah, the bookbound workshops, I've been to two of them. That was one of those. The people in the room, I don't know that I could have picked even any better. Like you said, making friends along the way. And it's never a coincidence of who I end up having the deeper, better conversations with. We somehow we do connect at a spiritual level. Even though we might be talking entrepreneurial, you've heard me say before, Scott, in our own conversations, that entrepreneurship, my opinion, it is a spiritual experience. So when I find other people who think and believe similarly, we just feel so limitless when we fellowship. So
Mhm.
I think one of my indicators, if I am in the right room, even if I haven't met everybody yet, is what am I feeling and thinking as a result of that chit chat I had over in the corner at break from that event? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and now as I'm doing my own events, part of my prayer is that I'm creating that right room and creating the opportunity for people to come in and have those appointments where they're meeting the right person at the right time, uh, and creating these lifetime relationships
so
through the
good.
Shatterproof boot camps and then the Shatterproof leadership retreat that's coming up, because that's been so important in my journey. I mean, if you go back to a couple years before I met you, and I was in the room and met Tom Ziegler,
Absolutely.
which changed. It was life changing. It changed the trajectory of what I'm doing. I would never have had Shatterproof Solutions or this podcast had I not met Tom Ziegler
Right.
uh, at that Born to Win event, I also met Howard Partridge, which then started putting me on stages, and so it's just. And then I mean, I've been in masterminds before, and I several of them became clients from a mastermind that I was in for 3
Right.
years that gave me a lot more money than I probably should have paid. but I've made these relationships that now are getting me into conversations about business deals that never would
Oh,
have
yeah.
happened had I not been willing to invest in myself and spend time with other entrepreneurs that are doing things different things than I'm doing.
Yeah.
Especially when we're all approaching it from that kingdom point of view, and so we're all trying to. Our end goal is the same. We're all trying
Mm,
to generate income that can be used to bless others and to build God's kingdom. Then some really cool conversations start happening.
absolutely. Yeah. I see it too as I'm hearing you describe that and the different people, types of people, different business outcomes you may or may not have, but you've got this fantastic cascade of quality relationships that you're building over time is because you're being a good steward of that's been presented before you. So
Mhm.
if I can continue sharing my opinions on that, being a steward isn't just of tangible things. It's also of our resources and our relationships.
Mm.
It's absolutely everything to do with the intangible. It's about what you do have. And that's what we have.
Yeah, and it's relationship. It's everything is about relationship in business, and if you think it's not, you're crazy. It is,
Agreed.
and it's you can tell when you're building those relationships because you can go 6 months, you can go a year, even longer without seeing or talking to that person. And when you get back together, it's like no time has
Yep.
passed. Uh,
Yep.
you just pick up where you left off. There's no guilt because you hadn't talked. It's just
Bingo.
everything is fine. And those are the kind of relationships that if you're an entrepreneur like we are, you need to be building. And those don't really happen sitting at your desk
No.
over Zoom.
Nope.
Uh, they just don't. You've got to get out and meet people, which kind of leads me to another thing that I want to make sure we touch on with you is that you are one of the best networkers that I've ever known,
Oh,
and
thanks.
connector of people. Like, I mean, you're reaching out to me all the time with, "Hey, do you know someone that does this?" Or, "Hey, can..." You're always connecting people that have a need with someone you think can fulfill that need. And then when I can remember, it was one of the first events after COVID that Ziegler had, and it was the first time I'd been with you and Tim in the same room. And Tim is her husband, and they're both one of their superpowers is networking and connecting with people
It's
and
fun.
watching them. And I'm going to say work the room,
Yeah.
which I know can have a
We
negative
do.
connotation,
Yeah.
but they work
But
the room, and they leave there with everyone there knew Tim and Heather Nichols were there, and they left with new relationships because they did it intentionally. Uh,
mm,
just they don't, and it's not my superpower. I don't enjoy it. I try to do better at it, but they are phenomenal. So kind of go behind the scenes there. Tell me, how did you guys learn how to do that? And maybe you can give us a couple tips on how we can be better at it.
I'd be delighted. Yeah, so I think the way I want to begin to answer into that for you, Scott, is I recognize that we could all probably say there's two types of people, those who like McDonald's and those who like Burger King. And this one, the dichotomy could be there's those who feel like they love people and it comes naturally to network or to want to build those connections, and the others who feel like they fight it and they're just barely staying in the room without feeling like they're running out, the introverts and the extroverts. So out of that dichotomy, I would say I'm actually, I think I've heard somebody refer to it as an introverted extrovert, but
Mhm.
I'm a little bit duplicitous. I believe people perceive me as a very outgoing, extroverted,
For
all
sure.
of those things. And really, I could sit at home and not go anywhere for a long, long time.
Wow.
So I play it up. So I've learned, oh, sorry, I just kicked my desk here. I've learned how to stretch myself and find my comfort zone. Or as Brian Flanagan would say, even if he has butterflies going on a stage, he's trained those butterflies to stay in formation.
Mhm.
So I still do that. One of my self neutralizing ways to feel more at peace and just get out there and do the networking that you've observed me doing is parking all of those self conscious or negative Nancy thoughts, any of my nervous thoughts, and really focusing on the other person. And I say person, not people, as opposed to looking at the room being full and letting that overwhelm me.
Mhm.
I just start talking with the one person that's near me. Or if I have any apprehensions about that person, if I've already done a snapshot profile of the way that they're dressing or carrying themselves, if I feel intimidated, I'm like, okay, well, just go to where you do feel comfortable in the room and begin talking with that person, but not just talking to talk, trying to learn about them. I don't need to go tell them, let me go run to somebody catty corner and just start info vomiting everything about me. No, the approach must be, I'm curious. I see you sitting here. Did you come with some people today? Do you know anybody else in the room? Do you want to, can I introduce you to, even if I don't know anybody else in the room, I've been known to ask, who can I introduce you to? So they can point out, well, I wanted to get to know that person, but I don't know much. I said, well, let me go find out for you. And then now I've got a premise to go and talk to that other person. Now I've met two people. And they believed I probably knew them both. I'm like, no, I just do it. But it's back to connecting them. I'm not thinking of how to connect myself so much. I'm really thinking of how can I connect them. And then the residual benefit is they learn about me. And that has taken all the pressure off of me in my introverted, extroverted dichotomy of working a room is I'm thinking about trying to distract myself from thinking about myself, going and focusing on the one at a time, and then who can I introduce them to? And I
Wow.
learned a lot of that from Tim.
Okay. Great. So we'll have Tim on to get to the secret. Uh, that's so powerful. I've heard that. I've heard that mind frame encapsulated in this way. Be more focus on being more interested than
Absolutely.
interesting.
Right, right. And the other thing I had to find myself doing when I first began applying this and seeing like, oh, people are responding really favorably and we do feel connected. We had other things that we could follow up on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
is trying to be cognizant that I'm not asking them so many questions out of curiosity. They feel like they're getting interviewed
Yes,
or interrogated.
I, I could do
Yeah. So Tim has a beautiful approach too. And yeah, you should have him on your podcast too. But he's actually got a pattern of how he alternates the types of questions so that it doesn't feel like you're interrogating and you feel some people cower a little bit. Like they start giving you the short answers like, yes, no, I don't know. And then they start looking around like, how can
that.
they run away from you? Where's their escape route? It is important to study people's body language. They can tell you a lot.
I think we probably could have talked the whole podcast about that.
The body
Uh,
language part or what?
yeah, yeah, that's, yeah.
Reading the room. Sometimes you just need to read the hula hoop. Read the hula hoop.
So, so your company is Big Harvest Marketing,
Yes, it
right?
is.
You use all these superpowers that I've talked about with your company.
Yeah.
Tell me about that journey. How did Big Harvest come about? How did you become
Yeah.
a marketer?
Oh, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to unpack that in at least two ways. But the first way, even the name of it, Big Harvest Marketing, comes from a spirit of abundance that, hey, we are all equipped. God has already equipped us with everything we need to succeed, and He wants us to reap a big harvest. And just because somebody in your space, even if you look at a competitor and feel like, oh, well, they're getting all the market share. No, God is infinite. All of his provision is not limited. And just because somebody over here is succeeding doesn't mean that you're not going to succeed. So no need to compare. Just go do and be a good steward of what God's given you, and you're going to find some success. But Big Harvest came from that mentality because I actually haven't always thought that way, Scott. I come from a very poverty driven mindset.
Hmm.
Longer talk that we could have on that one, although it's not very interesting because I like staying on the positive, not the negative. But I have had many a decade of my first part of my life not believing that way and starting to trust God more and actually seeing business as a vehicle, another thing that God has given me that I'm to be a steward of. I believe there is so much abundance for us to all have. So this big harvest isn't just about, well, I want a big harvest, AKA a big fat bank account. That's nice. but you could make $1 million and still not be happy. So let's make a garden along the way and enjoy this journey in between now and whatever our bank account goals are. Let's be present and content. You and I were talking about contentment a little bit earlier today.
Yeah.
And more will come from that. I try not to, this is part of my journey now that I've been in Big Harvest for a few years now, recognizing that there's so many other seeds that are planted that I haven't even tried to plant. I'm just seeing where God is working for his good in all that I'm doing. And I just need to keep giving him the glory for it and knowing that he is on the other side. So Big Harvest really came from the spirit of abundance and recognizing God's provision with or without our ambition. That's Big Harvest.
Yeah.
Marketing, yeah, his provision, despite what doesn't even need our ambition.
Yeah, I'm going to take a drink, and we'll thank our friends at Texas HTO for providing my.
Awesome plug. Hey, have you brought them on the podcast?
Not yet.
Oh, you could.
Yeah.
Let's see, your other question. How did I get into marketing? You know, with this bubbly exterior that people believe is an extrovert,
Yes.
I have been asked before, very straightforwardly, well, what are you selling? I didn't know how to take that the first couple of times. I have heard that more than once. What are you selling?
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't think I'm selling anything. This is just my personality coming out. I'm not selling anything. And I didn't even think I could sell back when I was in my 20s. I mean, I knew what sales was. Okay, you collect money in exchange for this product or service.
Right.
And there's a transaction and there's sales. And then, of course, we all hear the connotation about a used car salesman, which there are some fantastic used car salesmen too, but it's a profession. And the feeling that we transfer to people sometimes can feel salesy, but it still can also really be a service. I didn't learn the difference between being salesy and selling meant until some of my first jobs when I came over to Texas. I did work on a car lot. I did sell cars. I did sell weight loss memberships, worked in the health fitness industry. I was a trainer and sold training packages. So that was in my 20s. So I finally learned the art and craft of sales. I mean, there's a much bigger story I could tell on that, but how I got into marketing, it started with sales. And then I wanted to reverse engineer those sales once the social media started coming to life on the internet. It started, you probably remember this, some skepticism as to whether or not you could really harness that for business. I mean, that's really people just playing on their phone, playing games, showing pictures of their breakfast. Nothing serious. This is like, 2010. Some businesses were early emerging, early adopters on that, but there was still a lot of skepticism. So when 2013 came around, that I decided, was it 2013? I think it was 2012. Technically, I gave notice to my employer. I was still in sales technically at that moment. Went to a Zig Ziglar conference. Talk about being at the right room at the right place, right time, right people, all the right things. And this is where I had my epiphany. It was an entrepreneur boot camp. I was not an entrepreneur. I'm an employee at this moment.
Okay.
But to stay engaged, because I'm a big Zig Ziglar fan, stay engaged with the content, I was working the worksheets as if I owned the company that I was currently employed with. As I'm filling that out, and I answered how I thought they would answer. Ding, 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 I noticed something that really bothered me. Their definition of success is not the same as mine. And so long as I'm working for them and operating by their rules and standards, I'm not able to live fully by my own definition. And I suddenly did feel a little trapped. I don't know how else to describe it at that moment, but I just felt like, oh, something's just not right. This doesn't sit well with me. So I had this epiphany at that Zig Ziglar conference. And this was an October conference. And I remember turning to Tim. Tim and I were newlyweds at this time. I turned to him and I said, honey, if I've got the skills to make other people money, why don't I go out there and do something for me? He said, you should. And I'd been married before that wasn't such a good marriage, and so I was used to some rockier conversation, not so easy and fluid with my beloved Tim Nichols. Via newlyweds, I'm like, this is too good to be true. He just instantly gave me support and like the go ahead to do what I want to do. So I checked and they're like, okay, well, what do you mean when you say I should? You mean like come back after a few months, maybe wait a year out and see what happens? He's like, no, you really should. So in October conference, I gave notice to my employer in November. In December, I had my first client. It's time for me to put my money where my mouth was and start creating some business for myself. And that was working with another marketing company. They did a different type of marketing. They did more like trade shows, foot traffic type marketing, but they needed some other support. So I started in with them. They were my first client. And from then on, I began to build up and network, leverage my past networks. I had already gotten to know them. So I went back to them and let them know what I was doing now.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about, you have continuity. You pick up with as if no time has passed. So I went to those kinds of connections and said, hey, what are you doing now? Okay, I do want to tell you what I'm doing now. And that's where it spun off in 2013. At that time, my business was called The Biz Fizz. Keep your sales from going flat.
Yep.
But this is where I was reverse engineering the sales and creating that marketing strategy and implementing it for businesses so that they could see that needle move on the sales side. Because your customers don't care what you call sales or marketing. They have just their one experience. And even on Google, and I don't mean as a search engine, Scott, but if you go and look at their website, believe it or not, you guys, Google has a website. It's behind the search engine. You can click in the fine print and find their company philosophies. And out of the, I think they have a list of either 10 or 12 things they know to be true. Number one on their list, Google, big mega company. When you focus on the customer, all else will follow. Okay. So now I take that to heart in everything that I have done with my business, focusing on the customer. Sometimes how I'm focusing on that customer isn't just, it's not about just delivering the product or services. How can that change their life? How can they refer their family and friends? How can we continue to foster that trust for lifetime? You're talking about those lifetime connections.
Yep.
So that's not any short answer to unpack when you say, well, how did you get started with Big Harvest Marketing and how did you become a marketer? That's my storyline of how I arrived there. There's definitely, it's been a journey where I can see where God has revealed steps and given me options. And I decided to listen to some of these callings and pursue them in faith, not knowing, especially at that Zig Ziglar conference, I had no idea what that was about to look like. That was a pure faith step.
Hey there, it's Scott Reed, cutting in for a quick moment. If you're enjoying the podcast and finding value in our discussions, you're going to love the Access Plan. It's designed for entrepreneurs like you, offering unlimited legal advice without the worry of high hourly fees. With the Access Plan, you can get the legal support you need at a flat monthly rate so you can focus on growing your business with confidence. Head over to reblaw.com/access to learn more and join Access now and get busy shadowproofing your business. Now let's get back to our amazing guest. Yeah, and I'm sure there's someone listening right now that has either had to make that step of faith, or maybe is feeling like right now they're being called to take a step out in faith and start their own thing. And that can be pretty scary.
It can be. And I've discovered that faith is required at every stage of my entrepreneurship that I have gone through ever since. It's all in faith. I can't pretend to know everything that's ahead. Make some calculated steps based on what I have seen and experienced and believe I know. There's definitely a lot of faith, especially when it comes to innovation. We're trying to do new things and we're entering into the unknown. We have to try some things and say, sometimes I'll just talk like a kid to God because God's a big God. He can handle however I want to talk to him. Like, God, I don't even know how to articulate this, but thankfully your Holy Spirit is intervening and is able to translate. You know my heart and what I'm trying to say. So here it is, the ugly version of, how do I get through this over here? Or what am I supposed to know, learn, be, or do as a result of that? That confused me over there. Lord, can you put peace in my heart so despite this confusion, you can help me find success and give you the glory? And if I need to be quiet, teach me how to be quiet. If I need to go, show me how to go. Lead my day for me.
Okay, so that takes me back to something we talked about before the show. We've both been in these spots where we're not where we want to be. The things we want to be happening in our business or life aren't happening, but we are where we are, and have to learn to be content where we are at that moment, even though that's not what our heart wants.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely an area where I struggle. And sometimes I have my moments where, all right, I feel content. I've achieved success at feeling content on this. And then something will stir up, some little Satan's lies or his fear and doubts will start to impress back in me. And I need to be refreshed. This is where I really have to get into the word and get refreshed that way. Stay in fellowship, because Satan loves to dance on us when we're in isolation for too long. Even though Jesus himself had time alone, he also had much more time in fellowship. So we need to mimic that so that we can stay healthy spiritually and be fortified for those tough moments where we feel discontented. Yeah, I need renewing of my mind on the regular. I can't do it without renewing.
It's very easy to get frustrated, bitter, or start manipulating things to make things happen that aren't ready to happen. Right?
Ooh, I struggle with that one too, Scott. Meaning that I feel like I can control some things to make it happen. I definitely have a tendency to forge my own way, sometimes without checking and seeing, is that really where I need to forge?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like,
Or did,
I got this,
uh-huh.
and usually in my past it's been because either I was not content where I was, I was tired of waiting for God to do or I was scared. Sometimes I could get scared, especially as as a dad, and being I'm the provider for my family. My wife she's a teacher, but she's stayed home most of our adult life, and so I was the primary wage earner, and so there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, and
Mhm.
sometimes I could see and what I was doing we weren't getting where we needed to get, or I could see that I could maybe see something bad coming in that business situation, and so I would go make things happen.
Right.
Uh, that some of them, looking back, I shouldn't have made happen because it led to some bad situations that negatively impacted us. For a short time, it was good. There would be good things from it.
Mhm.
Eventually, things that you do in the flesh um, always tend to rot. Things that you do in the spirit when you're walking with the Lord and doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, those don't they may he may make you may make a change, but
Mm.
you don't tend to run into things that just rot and go bad.
Right.
And I can remember in 2002 I jumped from one law firm to another, and I made it happen because I was fearful that this other law firm was going to explode. The two senior partners weren't talking. It looked bad. A year before that, I'd learned my first lesson of being a business owner, that if there's no money, you don't get paid. I didn't enjoy that. And so I'm like, I need to probably do something else. So I jumped to this other situation, and being in that situation 3 weeks, with this supposedly Christian lawyer that I was joining up with, he was suddenly getting divorced. He ended up with a horrible drunk driving accident. I was having to run his
Mm.
law firm for him for no more money than I was making before.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then he came once he came out of all that problem. he remarried, and then his new wife started coming in and causing problems. And suddenly the person that had been running the firm, me, was not necessary, and they wanted to eliminate me. And it
Mm,
was all it
it's
was
hard.
all over my own impatience, probably some greed, and
Mm-hmm.
and ambition that I moved
Mm-hmm.
too fast and didn't truly vet the situation and pray through it. I just moved, and
Mm-hmm.
it it ended up it led to this, to where I am now, um,
Mm-hmm.
but in a really bad way. It wasn't the way it should have gone.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I had having my own law firm. It was something I wanted to do. I had even started doing some kind of long term planning and thinking what it would look like and how I would do it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to do it like this,
Yeah.
uh,
You had some
because,
quick decisions
because
to make.
he changed the situation on me because he wasn't someone that was stable. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so I had jumped into that bed, and it was all my fault,
Yeah.
and caused all kinds of problems.
If you
So
could have coached yourself back then, what counsel would you have given yourself in that moment?
um, that's a great question, Heather. You're not in charge of this interview. Uh,
Not at all.
I would have said be patient. I probably should have asked some questions to the senior partners, because I think one of them would have taken. They did split. I wasn't wrong. They did
Okay.
within 6 months. They split. But I think one of them would have taken me with them, and I would have been in a much better position had I done that. But
Hmm.
I didn't go ask questions. I just white knighted it all by myself,
Right.
and that was a big mistake, because
Right.
they wouldn't have been offended that I asked. I just,
That's good. Yeah.
what I mean. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
we knew they weren't talking, so I could
Yeah.
have talked to each of them about, hey, what's going on? You guys aren't talking. Um, it's kind of giving me some heartburn. One, can I
Hmm.
help? Is there something I can?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
two, what do you see happening? And three,
Right.
what does that have? How would I fit into to that picture?
Right.
Like, do I
Right.
need to be going? Like, do I need to go look for a job? Um,
Uh-huh.
are we good? So I
Yeah.
didn't do that. I just reached out on my own, uh, and 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 did that. And really, it was kind of weird. So I jumped into the opportunity that was bad. Along the way, I could have done it a different way, because I was offered a huge percentage of a settlement. Uh, I took over a case to make that move and settled the case for $7 million, and could have had 20% of that entire legal fee, which was several million. I would have made about $400,000, but I was scared to take
Hmm.
that. So I didn't. So when I did jump, I didn't do that. I went for I made him guarantee me a salary instead. And so I could have taken $400,000. Instead, I took 15,000.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's just little mistakes like that. But I didn't go seek counsel. I didn't. I probably told my wife what I was doing, but
Hmm.
probably more of like, this is what I'm doing, not, hey,
Right.
what do you think about this? Let's pray about this. I
Yeah.
just did it. Man of action.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, I would say slow down, get guidance, ask questions, make
Hmm.
sure that before you leave, that you're not leaving. You're not the
Hmm.
situation you think is bad is as bad as you think it is, and then make
Hmm.
sure that you're praying through the place that you're going.
Hmm.
Really a good landing spot, because
Right.
I basically jumped from the frying pan into the oven, or the oven in the frying pan, whichever way that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you were talking about there, that was when you were an associate in a legal firm.
I have been a partner. In 1996, I became a lawyer. The next year, I became a partner in that firm, junior
Okay.
partner. And then I've been a part owner since 1997 of a law firm. And so, yeah, it's been my last W-2 paycheck was 97.
97. And then I'm extracting from what you shared in that story that you just did, and thinking across the lines, even as for us entrepreneurs who are self-employed and maybe we're not in a part of a firm and having the exact same circumstances, but there are times when we either need to make some quick decisions and there's nobody to hold us accountable because we don't need to. We need to white knight it.
Yeah.
But in our solitude of our decision making, could there be an opportunity? Should we be seeking out opportunity for counsel? How do
Yes.
we patch in and not do it alone?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is you should become part of the Shatterproof Room, and so you have a group of entrepreneurs that are around you that you can ask questions to one on one, because you can reach out to them and have these talks. And these are Christian entrepreneurs that are dealing with similar things. You can also be on group coaching calls with that kind of situation to bring up the situation and say, hey, what does everybody think about this? What should I be looking at? What am I missing? But
Right,
whether you're part of my group or some other group, you need to be a part of something like that so that you're no longer on this island, because
right.
it's a lonely world. And when and you're in this echo chamber of either all your ideas are great or
Yeah.
all your ideas are bad, depending on your mindset. But neither of those is true. And so you need to have a group of people that loves you and will speak truth to you when you're not doing when you're making bad decisions. Will say, hey, don't do that, do this,
Mhm.
stop it. You're not thinking about
Mhm.
that right. What's
Mhm.
the
Right.
thinking, right? You need to check that from the neck up. You have
Yeah.
to have people and it's not your family. Your family can't serve that. That's not their job.
That's right.
And if you mix those jobs, unless if it's a family business, that's a little different. But if not, if you take this home and you're expecting your spouse or your brother or sister to say, hey, that's the wrong business decision, don't do it that way,
Mhm.
it's not going to
Mhm.
work. You need
Right.
to have people that their relationship with you is business. It's a business relationship. We're focused
Mhm.
on helping each other with business. Not that there's not a personal side to it, but they're willing
True.
to risk, like, hey,
Yeah.
you don't do it that way. And
Right.
they'll give you honest advice. And to do that, I've found you have to pay to be in the group.
Mhm.
If you go to networking groups, those are great, and you can meet some nice people and you can build some relationships. But they're not going to be the sounding board that you need and the
Mhm.
accountability that you
Mhm.
need
Mhm.
when you're on this island.
Yeah.
So I think you have to invest in coaching groups, in masterminds, and hiring a one-on-one coach can be a great way
Right.
to do that, because then you're having these weekly conversations where they can help you correct your mindset. They can help
Yeah.
you course correct on decisions that you're making. They can help you make decisions. And if you can find a coach that will pray with you through those, then it makes everything so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you already had this vision and have put in the time and curated this type of quality community because of everything I just said to prelude. If I were to go and do that on my own, any person go do that on their own, you can. It just does take time. So what you're offering too is speed to that support. Like sign up now, then you've got access now. You've got the support now. You don't have to be wondering, gosh, who do I need to take this to? That's
Yeah.
even a fair question you can ask your community group of,
Yeah.
here's my challenge. I'm trying to sort through what are my blind sides here.
Well, we had an example in one of our calls last month. One of the guys came on the call, and his challenge at the moment, he'd received an opportunity to go into full time mission work in 36 months in Jamaica,
Okay.
and he wants to do it. He wants to take that opportunity, but he wants to get his business turnkey by that time, so that
Okay.
he can go into full time mission, but still have the
Awesome.
business running.
Yeah.
So then the group goes to work on how to, here's all the things that you need to be working on. Let's put together a plan. And then every week we're asking them, okay, where are you on the plan? Did you do this? Sometimes no, I
Right.
didn't.
Right.
Okay, I'll reprioritize and do it. But the whole group's invested in his vision. Everyone
Yeah.
wants to help him make that come true. It would be so cool in 3 years when he's in Jamaica, coming on the Zoom call, and he's in mission work, and his business is running itself, and he's just getting reports and talking to his general
Yeah.
manager. That's going to be
Yeah.
amazing. And that stuff, you can do it by yourself. I know you can. I know people that have done it. Um,
Ask
I,
them how long it took to do it, and would they do it again? Or
I
could
can't.
they reapproach a little wiser?
I mean, one of the best examples of that kind of creating a turnkey business is our friend Howard Partridge, and he he tried to do it by himself and created a
Right.
real mess.
Yeah,
And you can find lots of recordings of him talking about it. He
right.
was on the show a few weeks ago, um, but he went really deep in debt and had to figure his way out. And to do that, he got help, and he started hiring coaches. And you go from a general business coach to then maybe I need an accounting coach. I need someone to help me
Yeah,
find numbers. And so as you're running your business, you need to have someone that you're working with. Right now, my coach is Daniel Gomez out of San Antonio, and he's helping me with some things that I'm specifically focusing on right now. But in my belief is that you always need to have either a specific one-on-one coach you're working with, or at least be part of a group coaching program if you want to really make progress, if you want to move fast. If you don't care
right.
how fast you go, and if you don't mind being frustrated, then you can go it alone.
Yeah,
I just don't recommend it. It doesn't seem like it's necessary. And when you invest in coaches and courses and programs like that, it's tax deductible, right? So it's not like it really hurts you. You get to invest that money in yourself and grow,
right,
and it's a tax
right.
deductible expense. So if you're listening, and we'll date this show. This is November of 2024, right before Thanksgiving, and so we're approaching the end of the year. This is a perfect time to get with a coach and
Mhm.
start talking about what are we going to do in 2025. Because if
That's
you wait
right.
till January to talk about 2025, you're going to be behind, and you'll
Yeah,
never catch up. And then suddenly it'll be 2026, and this will repeat.
yeah. I don't know about you, Scott, but I'm not getting any younger, and I
I
need to
checked.
make all my time count.
I checked with my doctor, and I am not getting any younger. And the aches and pains that go with it tell me that's true. All
Right.
right, we've had a fun conversation. Let's jump into some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
What's your one marketing book that every entrepreneur should read?
One marketing book that every entrepreneur should read. Oh, good. You put me on the spot for that one. Ah, okay. Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets.
Yes. Yeah. That is a great one. Mine would be Chet Holmes' Ultimate Sales Machine. It's got sales in the title, but it's an excellent marketing book. Those you can't go wrong with those two. Any of Russell's books are awesome.
Uh-huh.
What's a daily habit that keeps you creative and productive?
A daily habit that keeps me creative. Oh, you mean I'm consistent doing something daily? Wow, you think so highly of me. Uh, daily habit keeps me.
Regular
Okay,
habit.
so I struggle on that. I don't have a good succinct answer to give you. I stay productive. I don't stay creative. That's something I'm working on is to carve out that time and discipline myself. I actually love being creative. And I started scheduling myself on Tuesdays. If I want to build a new thing, Tuesdays are that day.
Okay.
But on a
So
daily,
you got to
mm,
time block it. I love it.
yeah,
What's
yeah,
the
that
best
gives me my
advice
my
you've ever
headspace.
received? What's the best piece of advice you've ever received as a business owner?
Best piece of advice I've ever received as a business owner. I should be faster on my answers, Scott. Fast.
You could be quoting me on
Oh, you
something.
know what? Actually, this was very practical. I was a little scared to hear this, but it was actually a coach that I worked with last year, and she challenged me. I don't know that it was her idea, but she did challenge me to fire some clients.
Yes.
Well, by the time she was telling me this, it wasn't just from nowhere. We'd already had progressive discussion
Yeah. Yeah.
talking about where I'm going and what I want to do. She was helping me to check my blind spots. And that was one of the things where she saw you could pick up some speed and get to where you want to be faster if you would stop doing these things. So do a trade. If this is where you want to be, let's cut out what you don't want to be.
Yeah, another great piece of advice, and really timely. If as you're going into the next year, look at your customer list, look at your client list, and figure out who you shouldn't be working with anymore, and make those decisions and trim it a
Yeah,
little bit and create more capacity to work with the people that you should be working with.
absolutely. If you want
Huge.
more time in your day and in your world altogether,
Yeah.
find out what's robbing you of the time, what's robbing you of your joy, and squash it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Stamp it out.
I think we should end on that one. That's so great. Heather, it's been a joy to have you on the show today. As you continue to empower and inspire others, I want to leave you with a blessing from Proverbs
Oh,
11:25. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others is refreshed. That's so fitting for you. I
oh,
love how you connect with people and help people. Want you to be prosperous in this new year, and everything that you intend to do. I pray for strength and blessing and wisdom.
oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you found value in what we've talked about today, then please like and subscribe. Tell some other people about it. And then I want to thank Heather for coming on. Heather, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, anybody is welcome to reach out to me if they want to talk faith, entrepreneurship, fusion of that. They want a free marketing audit, any of those things, then you can reach me directly on my email. I don't mind giving that out to your audience, Scott. It's heather@bigharvestmarketing.com.
We'll have that email in there and then a link to your website as well. So, again, thank you for coming on.
My
Until next
pleasure.
week, stay shadowproof. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. While I'm your host, Scott Reed, I'm a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer, and this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship. The views expressed by my guests are their own and not mine, and they may not even reflect the opinion of the Shadowproof Entrepreneur podcast. So we strive to provide valuable and accurate content, but we make no representations as to the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of any information to your particular situation, and won't be liable for any errors or omissions for the application of them. Always consult a professional or in the respective area that we've discussed before making any personal or business decisions.